Good afternoon. I'm with Galen McNamara, CEO of Silver47. The symbol is AGA on the TSX Venture. Good morning, Galen. How are you?
I'm doing well, Robert. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
Happy Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Happy Halloween. Yeah, happy Halloween.
Let's start with the Hughes Project near Tonopah. Um, so it's interesting because the news release you put out a couple of weeks ago is something I think investors really need to dig into and read it in detail and go over the maps and the long section. And, you know, you got 500 gram per ton silver showing up in these big step out holes at Ruby, and then more step outs at Topaz. Sapphire is wow. Sapphire is such a huge step out. I can't even tell. It's like 3 kilometers. So obviously there's something going on here at this Ruby extension and the areas of focus to the east there in Tonopah. So, can you tell us what you learned from this last phase at Hughes and why you're encouraged that you're on the cusp of something?
Yeah, I think you put it pretty well there. Like, there's obviously something there, but let's start with the big picture. Like, why do we care about these targets and out to the east of Tonopah? Well, where our Hughes property is in the Tonopah Mining District, total endowment in the district is somewhere around 500 million silver equivalent ounces between silver and gold. And that's between what was historically mined, what we have drilled out in our 43101 resources, and then what our colleagues at BlackRock Silver have drilled out in their resources. So total, add it all up, it's about 500 million ounces. And that's over a strike length of something like 4 kilometers. But we've got, from Ruby eastwards, east of the district, we have a 4-kilometer extension where between Ruby and, like you were saying, at the target's called Sapphire, where there's one wildcat hole that hit, we know that there's mineralization all along there, which is exciting because you're right beside one of the best silver districts, certainly in the United States. And there appears to be an unexplored extension, certainly, obviously on mine, but largely unexplored, certainly from a modern perspective with this type of thinking. And the questions are, it's like, okay, well, where's the main structure? Number one, that's critical. And number two, how many ounces are left out there east of the district for us to find? And if we can get onto the main structure, I hope and I think we'll be drilling out a significant number of ounces pretty quickly, just based on the analog that's like right beside you in the heart of the Tonopah Mining District. So that's really why we care. But what we learned is that we have to test the search space systematically, and we stepped out from where we know there's mineralization. Our best hole there previously was 3 meters of 1450 grams per ton silver equivalent, and start to test this systematically, step out from that mineralization so we can best place a series of fences across that strike length, that extension, to look for that main structure. And that's really the next step here is to drill a series of fences, looking for additional mineralization and that main structure.
So to try to understand this a little better, so that Ruby and Ruby extension, where you've had multiple hits now, like as you mentioned, 1,450 grams per ton silver equivalent over 3 meters in a 2023 drill hole, 2020 drill hole, 430 grams silver equivalent over 2 meters, Ruby extension drill hole, 392 grams per ton silver equivalent over 3 meters. And that's in a 600. So like people have to understand that 650 meter step out in a vein system is very, very big. I mean, normally vein hosted gold and silver, you might step out 50 meters or 100 meters at a time at most. So, you've hit in very large step out. So are you saying that what you've intersected to date at Ruby and Ruby extension could be an offshoot vein of something larger?
Yeah. So maybe an offshoot. That's one way to look at it. Maybe that's a way to look at it. But we know in the Tonopah district, there's hundreds of veins, and most of them are small. Most of them you might get a meter wide. There's lots of stuff that's less than a meter wide, a couple meters wide. The main structure in one part of the district is called the Mizpah vein, and another part of the district is called the Belmont vein. That's where it can get to be 5 to 10 meters wide and 1,000 grams per ton. But a lot of ounces still in the district still came out of those, call them not the main structure, secondary veins, because the grades can get so high. And when you're looking for where that main structure, I think, is, you're going to get a lot of smoke, and you're going to get a lot of these secondary veins. Like I feel like I'm using that term wrong, secondary, because the grades are just fine. Yeah, looking for where the main one is just an exercise of being able to think in 3D with all the information that you have, and as you drill out incrementally, using new information to do that.
Okay. And so, what's next? It would seem to me, just by looking at the long section, that this is a vein that's got a dip down into the Halifax fault zone. So is there a thought to drill deeper, closer to the fault zone, to see if there's some really nice contact hosts there? Is there also an idea to drill shallower at Topaz?
Yeah. Well, like when you're fully open to mineralization, you can drill anywhere, right? You just keep stepping out. But the Halifax fault zone is largely likely post mineralization, so it cuts off the Tonopah Mining District to the west, and where we are to the east of that now is open hunting ground.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
So what's next at Hughes then?
So it's really a test. It's a series of fences. Holes that you drill from heel to toe to test the width of the prospective rock package, really, while we continue to step out from where we know there's mineralization, and really give that search space from ruby to topaz, the shot that it needs to look for the real extension of the Tonopah Mining District. And if we can get onto that, the size of the prize is likely could be very large. And that's really the exploration thesis here that we're going to test in the wintertime.
I see. Okay. And so, bigger picture question, Galen, about the Tonopah district, about the state. I mean, we have rumors that Newmont may acquire all of Barrick's assets in the NGM portfolio, that they just take over the whole thing. They might even make a bid for 4 Mile and some of the other assets. I'm hearing rumors about Tonopah. It's not necessarily, regarding Silver47, but I'm hearing that there's some M&A activity pending across the district. What can you tell us?
Well, nothing really. Like, we're just concentrating on what we can control here on our project. And look to do efficient exploration like we always have. But there's certainly several companies in the area that all have a good amount of ounces, and Tonopah is an interesting place between us and BlackRock and West Fault right in the town, with gold and silver resources. But there's other gold and silver resources within a hour's drive as well. And if you move back from Tonopah back towards Las Vegas driving, I mean, the next town down is Goldfield, and Centerra is about to be building a mine there, and it's 20 minutes away. And then the next town past that is Beatty, and AngloGold Ashanti, of course, and other companies are drilling out significant multi-million ounce resources. Well, Tonopah is the one that is at least in a straight line. There's no real majors there yet. But look, we just concentrate on what we can control, and that's being effectively allocating exploration dollars to making new discoveries, which we've been very successful at so far.
Okay, so to put a bow tie on Hughes, winter drill program, that's, to me, that sounds like starting in January. When will you announce that, and when is it expected to start?
Yeah, so we'll probably announce that in a couple months, and it probably won't start until later in the winter, maybe February, because we plan to be drilling in New Mexico at the Mogollon project actually before that. So that's the next one that's in line, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue. Let's talk about that. New Mexico, that program is about to get underway.
Yeah, it'll probably get underway within, say, in around a month from now. It'll be very precise, targeted step outs from our current mineral resources that are aggressive, probably in the neighborhood of 100-meter step outs, which, like you were saying earlier, is still very, very aggressive, but we're confident that the system is pretty continuous. And just for context, we've got 32 million ounces in resources there, but that really only is a starting line. It incompletely covers, say, 2.5 kilometers of one vein, very incompletely, maybe half of that. And there's an additional 75 kilometers of vein and prospective structure present on the property, and lots of high grade that I would say it's fair to say is very widespread. So there's a long-term vision there for additional discoveries over probably many years. But what we're going to do now is step out from a zone where previously we've got holes that have hit 31 meters of 400-ish grams per ton, over 400 grams per ton, and just keep systematically chasing those grades and those widths. And 30 meters is a very, very wide intersection in the vein environment, and I think that speaks to the robust nature of the mineralizing system. You know that you're onto something significant when you get vein intersections that are that wide.
So the resource there is 32 million silver equivalent ounces at an average grade of 367 grams per ton silver equivalent. So that strikes me as being extremely high grade. I mean, if you do gold equivalent, that's like 4 or 5 grams.
Mm-hmm.
How big does it need to be to work, Galen?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. What's that critical mass, right? And I would say on any of our projects, I need to see these two projects. I need to see a pathway to 100 million ounces. And it may take a lot of drilling. That's fine, but I need to see that pathway there, and certainly for both the projects, it's very, very clear.
Okay, very clear. So will you be using 2 rigs there, or is that just a 1 rig program?
It's probably just a one rig program for now, while we get ready for a larger program the following fall, excuse me.
I see. Okay. And then moving to Alaska, the Red Mountain project, you put out some results there, some pretty high grade intercepts there as well.
Yeah.
What's new at Red Mountain?
So Red Mountain, I'm a little bit newer to Red Mountain because it came from Silver47, and of course we closed that merger at the beginning of August. And Red Mountain it's a VMS, it's a silver-rich VMS district that has really excellent both step-out potential from the 2 deposits, but also exploration potential, because we're covering about 60 kilometers of strike, and that's the entire VMS district plus some really good SEDEX potential that is like largely unexplored. And you could plop that into a place like the Flin Flon Snow Lake Greenstone Belt. It's about the same size. And Hud Bay in the 70s and 80s, and maybe the 60s to the 80s, discovered a mine there once every 4 years. So that's the way I'm thinking about that. But zooming into what we've actually done so far is we released a batch of holes from the 2 deposits. One's called West Tundra Flat, the other is called Dry Creek. And at West Tundra Flat, we stepped out 160 meters. Again, it's a big step out, right? When you're talking about an inferred resource, and hit some really good grades in what I would call a donut hole of that deposit. And I just want to get the numbers right here because I have a large amount of numbers in my head. I'll read them out. Excuse me 1 second. Where we hit 640 grams per ton silver equivalent over 6.9 meters. That's a very, very strong hole in one hole. 736 over 3 meters in another. Same thing, 165 meter step out. So that's one of the deposits, West Tundra Flat. Then at the other deposit, Dry Creek, which is a few kilometers away, we're really trying to focus on building high grade ounces within the deposit. We see some areas where we can grow by increasing the grade locally. So I call those kind of like step ins. It's a little bit of infill, but it's targeted to add ounces as well. An interesting good result there, 344 grams per ton silver equivalent over 12.8 meters. And really for me, this just reaffirms the strength of the mineralizing system. And the more we learn about this project and the more we look regionally, we just see so much potential for company making deposits to be discovered there. So next summer this really is our flagship now. It's the largest ounce endowment. If we just look at silver equivalent, it's 168 million ounces. But really, this is a polymetallic critical mineral deposit. in Alaska with a lot of good precious metals in it. But we look at the exploration potential and we think, okay, and we look at the growth potential, we think, okay, so this project, we're planning for a minimum of 3 rigs next summer to really advance it through additional resource estimates, the first economic studies, and really push this one forward.
So at Dry Creek, you have silver, gold, copper, lead, and zinc. Are there any other metals there?
Yeah, there's actually, we're looking at this now. There's gallium, there's antimony, there might be a bit of indium. There's some tin kicking around on the project. Really, the only thing that's not a critical mineral once silver, gets included, as we expect it will in the next couple months, is gold. Yeah, and well, that sounds like that sounds pretty good, right? Like, if there's one thing that's not a critical mineral, I think the best one's probably gold.
Oh, definitely. From like an economic standpoint, there's no better metal than gold for a mining company. So at Dry Creek, it's a VMS system. You have like these high grade chutes that repeat every 200 or 300 or so meters. Is the exploration strategy there to step out along strike and find more of those chutes, or to follow them to depth, or both?
Both really. Like the growth, there's a few deep holes there that hit good mineralization, so we know the system is open to depth, but also along strike. Those chutes, it's probably within the deposit that you're looking for that periodicity. Once you start to get outside of the deposit and look for new lenses, it's a different game, and that you're looking for geophysical anomalies. You can be looking for good samples at surface, all of which we have. And there's something like 30 other prospects on the project. And in places you get holes that were like 2 meters of like 500 or 600 grams per ton silver equivalent, and like not really drilled out, right? Or you get places where you can go and sample like 30% zinc on surface and not drilled yet, right? It's a rare and unique discovery opportunity.
Okay, very good. And you have more holes pending from the program, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's 8 additional holes pending, and we're starting to get the prelims back now, and seeing what some of those grades are. So we should be able to share those probably pretty soon.
Okay, very good. And then the last time we spoke about Red Mountain, we talked about the broader property package and the step out potential. There's target rich environment for sure. What work have you done to sort of shortlist those high priority targets, and what more work will have to be done to get those ready to be drilled?
Yeah, so one thing I've learned in my career, going back to the beginning, is like you have to rigorously know your data and what's available. So previous operators have done a lot of good data collection. There's modern geophysics, modern EM. There's a lot of samples taken. There's some pretty strong mapping done. We went out this summer and spent some time looking at some of our best targets. So like we don't really need to do too much more work. There's several that are like drill ready now, and additional targets maybe need a few more days of field truthing and geological mapping. But that's a really good exercise that we will do over the next, like ranking everything is a really good and interesting exercise that we'll do over the next several months to be ready to drill a lot of those targets in the summertime.
So Red Mountain is always the summer focus for Silver47, and then you go to the southwest when it gets colder up north.
Yeah, that's right. You're limited to drilling in the summertime at Red Mountain and in Alaska, and so you want to be as aggressive as you can in the 4-month drilling window that you have. And 4 months is still pretty good if you can put 3 or 4 rigs on it, right? But it's also nice to be able to, there's just so much growth potential both in Nevada on the Hughes property, but also on this new Kennedy property that we have that we staked recently, and in New Mexico. So this is just a great environment to be adding ounces as efficiently as possible. And I think our discovery costs to now, at least on the SUMA side, on the projects in the lower 48, are like 25 cents an ounce, USD, give or take. That's a great value proposition in a $50 silver environment, if you ask me. So we're going to continue to aggressively do that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the capital market side of things. So look, you have a big merger of equals that just got consummated and finalized in the last few months. But now it's head down and you guys are really going to work here. what do you think you need to add from the capital market side to get the market to understand the value of Silver47's project portfolio?
Yeah, that is a great question. That is like a key, right? That is like the keystone, a great puzzle piece. And honestly, Silver47 was a very new company. It still is a very new company that started with the Red Mountain asset. And now putting it together with Suma, in total, we've got nearing 250 million silver equivalent ounces. And I think we trade at an EV of like 30 some cents an ounce per ounce in the ground or something like that. And a lot of our peers are like $1.50 or higher, right? But like, so, I'm not just going to sit back and like go like this, well, we should be trading higher. Like there is a clear case for us for our value appreciation here, but it's like you said, we're really concentrating on aggressively adding ounces, both through the drill bit on all of our projects. We've got something like $27 million in the bank right now. So really ready to deploy capital. But also looking at additional M&A opportunities. Are there any other like-minded management teams out there that see potential the value in growing by putting companies together? And I think so far, like the market reaction to Silver47 Suma Silver combination since August 1st, I think has been excellent. I mean, you started this when we put this together. We were both around a $40 million market cap, give or take. And when things got going, when we got that little feeling of generalist investors coming into the market, we traded at $160 million market cap. So, I think that just shows that the proof of concept here is correct. Our thesis is correct, excuse me.
Yeah, I think it's actually a very clever idea to merge the assets and have year-round work programs going at three different large assets that like any one of these, Hughes or Red Mountain or the Mogollon asset could be a mine one day. I mean, it's a very real possibility. So I think it's a very good strategy to not have a down period. I think it's tough being an Alaska or Golden Triangle only explorer and have to deal with the winter lull, 6-7 months where you have much less news flow and investors are not excited about a drill program coming up, right? So I think this is a great strategy. I think it's great to focus on silver. And obviously the gold component is also quite large. Are you hearing about possible inclusion in any of the ETFs?
Well, we meet the requirements for several of them, like clearly. But you don't really hear about inclusion much before it happens in our experience. So that's something that we think there is clear evidence for us to be included for many reasons. Of course, valuation, the volumes, the liquidity requirements are all met. But we also have silver-rich assets that are domestic, and you can really count silver resources of significance in the United States that aren't in the hands of majors, like on one hand, right? Or a little bit more. And we've got three of those assets. So, I think just for the ETFs, but also for all investors, that's a really good reason to think about owning our stock, because like say what you want about the United States and the permitting timelines in some places, but you know what? Property rights still matter.
Safety and certainty of rule of law definitely is valuable. So just a final point to put a bow tie on the conversation, Galen, what kind of news flow can investors expect in Silver47 over the next few months?
You know what? It's going to be very drilling focused. We've got assays pending from Red Mountain. We're very soon going to be starting our work at Mogollon. From there, we'll transition into Tonopah, the Hughes property, and drill that. So lots of drilling news is coming, but also we're advancing things in the background. We're looking at what our new resource could look like at Red Mountain. Do we like that? We have the skill set to do that internally in a very robust manner. We're advancing our Kennedy project, which is an undrilled high-grade vein field at surface in Nevada, very high level that we staked. That is quickly moving up the priority stage, just by the priorities, just based on what we've done there so far, and probably some more to share there coming up soon. So we're as aggressively adding ounces and advancing all of our projects here as quickly as we can, as we lead into drilling in Red Mountain with a minimum of 3 rigs starting next June.
Very good. Thank you, Galen.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.